The drama begins in the distant past, and one day there is a big storm in the sea, which causes everything in the sea to wash up on the shore, including pearls, fish, and every sweet thing you can imagine. In the midst of the sweetness, a mermaid appeared. When the villagers saw her, they were shocked because it was the first time they had ever seen a mermaid, and they thought it was a myth. They quickly took her to the town's ruler, Yang, who was also the village chief. When he saw it, he was very happy and said, "This is really a mermaid. Mermaid looks like a human, and at the same time, mermaid looks like a fish." He was about to grab, but when his friend stopped and asked him if he knew that there is a legend that says that if you hold hands with a mermaid, it will take your soul and erase all your memories. Yang quickly got scared and decided to give it as a gift to the ruler of the country, because he was a new ruler and wanted to get close to him. His name was Kim. When he first arrived at the governor's, they gave him a celebration and presented him with a mermaid as a gift. When he first saw it, he was attracted to it. Yang told him that the mermaid had a very expensive oil that could not be afforded at any price, and that every tear in her eyes turned into pearls. "They have found a great treasure," he said, "and it is impossible to part with it." The governor threatened him and told him that for the taxes he owed, he could be sentenced to death. Yang was so scared that he didn't know how to respond. The governor told him that the only way to save him from all this was to leave him the nymph and never ask for her again. Unfortunately, Yang had to agree, and the governor took the mermaid back to the sea. At the same time, Yang was watching the governor and was disgusted by what he had done. He decided to take revenge on him for taking the mermaid back to the sea. The governor was looking at the mermaid in the sea and marveled at her beauty. The mermaid went up to him and held out her hand for him to hold. The governor held her hand, knowing that if he held her hand, he could lose everything, and that she could erase his memories, fall in love with her for life, or take his soul. Yang watched them and was pleased with what the governor had done, knowing that the nymph would never leave him again, so he could catch her again, and this time, it would be through the governor. Many days and years passed, and we had Kim, who is a great swindler and has the ability to deceive and defraud anyone. He has a sleight of hand that turns into a force that can control those in front of him like a hypnotist. He can impersonate anyone and enter any place. His friends work with him in the scam. One day, Kim impersonated the general manager to get the son of a very famous businesswoman out of jail. They were able to convince security and everyone else present that he was the prosecutor, and because of his magical powers, he was able to make the people in front of him believe that he was really the prosecutor, and the businesswoman's son was released from prison. He asked her to send the money to a safe place where no one would suspect him, an island in the White Sea. He was going to rest from time to time, but while they were at the airport and on their way out, each of them decided to travel somewhere else to get a break from each other, instead of the three of them being stuck together all the time. Kim traveled and arrived on the island, and while sleeping in his room, he heard a strange sound. He quickly got up to see what the sound was, and found the whole house in disarray, the food on the floor, and the house in disrepair. He was shocked and thought there was a thief in the house. He searched. Suddenly, he found a girl he had never seen before in his life. She was obviously hiding in her clothes, and he found a girl who looked like a slob and was wearing the same kind of clothes. He asked her who she was, and she hit him with her fist, and he flew away and landed on the ground. The girl was scared of him and didn't even understand what he was saying, because she's not a human being. She's a mermaid. But Kim didn't know anything, so the police took her away. He wanted to film her so she wouldn't run away, and he wouldn't know how to get to her. When the police came to pick her up, Kim told them that she didn't steal anything. She just wandered off. He took pity on her, but he wanted the police to take her. He looked at the photos he had taken of her and realized that she was wearing a very expensive and rare bracelet worth millions. At the same time, the mermaid and the police took her away, mesmerized by the beauty of the people on the street because it was the first time she had seen human beings. The police were already impressed with her and thought she was crazy. On the other hand, Kim went to his girlfriend and showed her a picture of the bracelet and learned that it was 400 years old and not a normal bracelet. He quickly went to the police station and got her out of there because of super strength, and was able to convince the officer that she was his wife and that they were going on a honeymoon here. The officer was convinced, apologized, and wished them the best. Kim took the mermaid and walked away, and when he came out of the police station, he apologized to her and held her hand to show her the bracelet, but she didn't understand what he was doing and reached out to hit him. She is afraid of anyone who comes near her. He looked at her legs, saw that she wasn't wearing shoes, so he took her to buy, but she didn't know how to get dressed. He put them on her, bought her clothes, and made her eat, all so he could steal the bracelet she was wearing. He watched her eat and wondered how she ate, and wondered where the girl came from and why she had such an expensive bracelet. He taught her how to eat, but at the same time he was determined to steal the bracelet from her. When he had a chance, he walked away and asked her to stand here and wait for him. She just stood there and listened, not understanding anything. He went to the hotel where he was staying and didn't want to leave again, but he thought about her and everything she had done and wanted her even more. He went to the place where he had left her and found her still standing in the street, and it was raining on her. He reached for the umbrella to shield her and then reached out to grab her. From that moment on, her soul became attached to his soul, just like it did back then, feeling like the world was spinning around them again. The story goes back. In time to tell the rest of the story. After the governor released the mermaid, he was walking on the beach and met her again. She told him that she had the ability to read anyone's mind, and she had already read his. They agreed to meet again, and she told him a sign he had to do, which was to show him lanterns of light in the sky. He leaves her and continues to swim in the sea. After a while, she notices that the sky is illuminated by lanterns, and she knows that this is the sign that they will meet again. Back in the present day, Kim meets the mermaid, grabs her hand, and takes her to a very expensive hotel. As soon as she sees the place, she is mesmerized. He goes to sleep, and she stays up late watching movies. The next day when he wakes up, he finds her still awake. They get a call from his friends that the business manager found out that he and his friends had swindled them out of large sums of money and ruined her son's life. She sent a lot of men around to get rid of them, and if they find them, they will kill them. He quickly packs up his things, grabs the nymph, and runs away before they get to him. But they see him and the nymph running, so they run after him. The mermaid has an unnatural strength in combat. She runs like an idiot, while she protects him and he doesn't even know it, thinking he's protecting her. When Kim finds a wheel, he gets on it and she rides behind him, and she's having a blast like she's going on a date. They stand in one place and think they've gotten rid of them, but to their surprise, they're still waiting. He told the nymph to stand aside and he would deal with them. He went to hit them, but they hit him. The nymph got up and hit them one by one, finishing them off. In the meantime, the men took him in the car and kidnapped him. But the nymph didn't let up. She went after them in the car, caused an accident, and took Kim and fled. That's how they got rid of the businesswoman's men. Kim took her, treated her to ice cream, and got her anything she wanted. Then he took her to the church where they were having an election, where he introduced her as his wife. But unfortunately, she couldn't speak because she was traumatized. Suddenly, the nymph speaks and embarrasses him. It's the first time she speaks in the series, and he's the one who's traumatized. They took her and left. He asks her if she speaks, and she tells him that she stayed up all night watching movies and learned their language, and started speaking like them. He realizes that she is very smart, because she learned quickly. He takes her to sit in their room. While she's sleeping in dormitory, she asks him and tells him that she heard the word love. She asks him what love is, and he tells her that love is a dangerous thing, and that she shouldn't try it. She confesses her love to him, and he gets angry, and tells her that it's not that easy, and that she shouldn't say that, because love is a weakness. If she falls in love, she is his property, and he can cheat. She told him that she was hungry. He cooked for her, and made her everything she wanted. While they were eating, he asked her who her father and mother were, and she told him that she had no father or mother. He was surprised by her words, and told her that she was a stranger. They go to sleep. While she is asleep, he takes the bracelet he stole from her and puts it back on her. The next morning, he takes it back and tells her he's giving it to her for the rest of the world. She asks him if this is the end of the world on arrival. He remembers his mother taking him to this place and telling him that, and also telling him that if anyone ever met anyone here, no matter how long it took, they would meet again. She left him and walked away. He was upset. The fairy told him that if they parted in this place, they would meet again. He told her that unfortunately, he never met his mother who left him in this place. Suddenly, the businesswoman's men show up and start financing the place. He takes the nymph and runs, and they run after him. The mermaid has no choice but to take him with her and jump into the sea. As soon as the water goes down, she turns back into a mermaid and says that she loves him and that she will collect all their memories and promises to meet him again. Back in the old days, after all the candles are lit in the sky, and the governor realizes that they will meet again, the mermaid starts talking to him, and they learn that they met 20 years ago when he was a child on the beach. He was drowning, and she saved him from drowning, and they kept meeting on the beach and loving each other until they grew up. One day he told his old man that he had to get married, and she thought that she would keep him away and protect him from the memories and the longing for her, because she would not be able to live out of the water until she was old enough to have 2 legs. She decided to pull all the memories out of him and left him and went away. That's why he doesn't recognize her when he sees her locked up, but he feels like he knows her. He asks her and says to her, "Why did you leave me and go away?" Back to the present. After the nymph takes away his memories, Thani is left on the beach with no memory of what happened, only that he was alone and she wasn't with him. He sees the bracelet he stole from her, but doesn't know how he got it. He thinks about going back to Korea, but when he goes home, he finds his friends sitting comfortably in his house. He argues with them and asks them to find a place to live other than his house. His friend asks him, "Where is the bracelet you stole from the girl?" Kim is surprised and asks him, "Whose girl?" He shows him the picture, and Kim is very surprised because this is the first time he's seen the girl. He says he doesn't know who she is, but he has the bracelet she's wearing and leaves. At the same time, the mermaid thinks about him and realizes that he's back in Korea. So she decides to go to him because she misses him so much, but it's going to be a long journey because she has to go by sea. And she decides to go to the address where she knew he lived in Korea, so she keeps looking for him everywhere. As she does so, she finds young girls stealing a girl and taking money from her, and she wants to do the same because she needs money. But the girl who steals from her insults her and is angry with her, and finally takes pity on her and gives her food, telling her not to do it again and to work so that she has money before she goes to school. On the other hand, Kim went to the businesswoman, but disguised in a different persona, and while she was in the elevator, he made the owner disable the elevator and convinced her through hypnosis that her son was the one who was at fault, and the reason his colleague committed suicide, and that he didn't cheat on her. This was done to get her to stop pursuing him until she was convinced, and she came out and told her staff to drop the lawsuit against Kim. Back to the mermaid who knew where Kim was and went there. The place is full of fish. On the other hand, Kim's best friend loves him very much and asked the maid to prepare all the food Kim likes because it's his birthday tomorrow. She brings the food to him, and as he eats it, he thinks of his mother's food because it tastes exactly the same, and he thinks of all his memories as a child. Kim goes to the fish exhibit that his mother used to give him when he was little, and at the same time, the mermaid, when she sees the fish, she can't stop herself. She goes into the fish exhibit and swims with them, and she can't stop herself. Everyone else in the show thought she was part of the show, including Kim. After the show, Kim's girlfriend sends him a picture of the girl he was with in Spain. At that moment, he thought of the mermaid he was with and quickly went back to her. When he got there, she was already running from security. He goes to the security and convinces them with hypnosis that he is an officer to catch the nymph. The mermaid, on the other hand, doesn't believe him, and she finally gets to him. Back in the old days, when the mermaid grows up and decides to go to Yang again. She went to the village and took a pair of clothes that had been sawed off and replaced them with pearls so she wouldn't be a thief. The village chief decided to sell his men to catch her, and this was an opportunity for him. Word spread throughout the land that if the nymph went to any village, she would destroy it, and they had to catch her as soon as possible. He told them that if they caught her, they would have to cut off her legs because that was her weakest point. The village chief's men found her walking in the middle of the fields, so they attacked her and cut off her legs. Her legs. She is afraid of them and doesn't know why they are attacking her. Yang arrives just in time, and with all his men, the village chief beats them off and then rescues her from their midst. Back in the present, Kim's father's new wife serves them food, and as he eats, he reminisces about his memories with Kim's mother and how he promised them that they would be rich and that he would never leave their side. At that moment, his conscience became very clear and he felt guilty. After he finished eating, he went to the company and asked the driver about Kim, who told him that he would get information about him as soon as possible and tell him where to find him. By this time, his wife is wearing a wire and listening to everything that is being said. She is very upset that he is rekindling his relationship with his son, who is his sole heir. She decides to hire a goon to watch him and find out everything about him. Kim shows up to meet the nymph and asks her who she is and what she wants from him, and whether she knows him or not. Security shows up to arrest her. He tells them that he is an officer and that he will take care of her and walks away. He tells her that he saved her, but only so she could tell him who she is. He shows her a photo of them together, and she tells him she doesn't recognize him. He asked her name. She said she didn't have a name, so he mocked her and said, "How come you don't have a name?" He said, "How come we met in Spain?" The guards realized that he was not an officer and that he had lied to them. He took the mermaid and ran out of the place, told her he was sure he had seen her before, but couldn't remember, and left. She wanted to follow him, so he told her to leave him alone and walked quickly until he disappeared. She keeps running after him and can't find him. A young man comes in and tries to cheat her, so Kim comes in and saves her, and the nymph is so happy that he was able to get her back, he takes her, and they walk off into the night, and he is angry that she is holding on to him and not letting go. This is because she was afraid he would run away again. 3 guys show up, and they're hitting on her. He saves her, and they have a romantic situation, and she is so happy she can't believe it. They get a phone call, and she's a little distracted. Suddenly, she hears rockets. She runs to him, and he falls to the ground, and she tells him not to be afraid. She will save him. She thought it was a weapon or something. He tells her not to be stupid, and asks her, "What are you doing? These are toys in the sky. They don't hurt anyone. They just make people happy." When she looks up for the first time and sees what the fireworks look like, she is completely overwhelmed. She tells him it's the first time she's ever seen them, so she tells him it's the first time she's ever seen anything so bright in the sky. She tells him to put his hand over his heart and smile. He was very surprised by her words because his mother used to tell him that, and he was very upset that his mother left him while he was living with his father's wife, and that she treated him badly. Because of her, his father also treats him badly. She begs him to go with her, but he won't, so he takes his carriage and walks a few blocks. She is patient, and he comes back to pick her up. In the car, he tells her that he loves being with her. He keeps remembering things from the past, but doesn't know what they are. He finds someone chasing him in a car. He gets away and they go home. She sees his friends in the house with him. They ask him, why did he bring her? He tells them that she has nowhere to go and will stay with them for a while. They prepare food for her and she eats it. They ask her where her home is. She thinks of the sea and tells them it's far away. She begins to eat in a very strange way. Kim shows her the bracelet and asks, "Who is this?" She confesses that she gave it to him because he liked it. She tells him she has a lot of them. What she means is that she's already found them thrown in the ocean. Kim's boyfriend is very happy and tells her that she should live with them. He asks her name. She says she doesn't have one and asks Kim to name her. He decides to call her Shim. She is very happy with the name and likes it because it's her name and nothing more. A little later, Kim's best friend comes home. She reacts to the fact that he brought a girl home. Shim wonders why she came to Kim's house. Shim hugs Kim to tease her. They go to celebrate Kim's birthday, and Shim acts strange and eats even stranger. Kim's owner is amazed by her, and they all laugh at her. Shim finds the girl acting so normal and decides to imitate her, on the basis that she's still a coyote. She doesn't know that she's just like that without any effort. The next morning, she wakes him up to make her breakfast and is surprised by everything that is happening in the house and is completely confused. On the other hand, a person who sees his father's eyes on him is able to reach the area where he lives and works on him. Someone got suspicious of him and started to do something to him, and unfortunately, the stranger had to send him to the other world. The man sent by his father turned out to be a serial assassin. At night, Kim goes to his car and learns about the murder that happened in the house next to him, and quickly leaves before the outlaw comes to his house and eliminates Shim because she's alone, and he's worried about her. On the other hand, the outlaw arrives at Kim's house, and when the doorbell rings, it's our girlfriend who opens it, but she's too stupid to do so. Kim goes in and saves her at the last minute, but on the other hand, the village chief had one of his men eliminate someone, and he accused the nymph of eliminating him. He told everyone that the nymph had ruined the village and that they should get rid of her. He convinced them until they all started to hate her and walk around her to get rid of her. The ruler notices that they are circling her, so he takes his horse and runs to the house where he left the nymph. Back in the present, when Kim goes home to save Shim, he enters the house and yells at her. He tells her not to open the door for a stranger. She tells him that she thought he was a shark because of the clothes he was wearing, but then a human appeared. He tells her that people are more dangerous than sharks. He convinces her, but all she's worried about are the people on TV. She asks him, how do they live like that, and how are they so young? She asks Kim if he knows them. He tries to explain that it was just the show she was watching and nothing more. She asks him what happened on the show and wants him to ask them. He talks to his friend, laughs at her, asks her what happened, and continues to make up stories in his head. She is surprised by his reaction. Then he starts talking to her and tells her that he wants to know everything that happened between them in Spain in exchange for him telling her the end of the show. But she refuses to tell him anything, even though she is going to die and know the end of the show. He tells her that as long as she doesn't tell him, she will go away. Shim is quite stubborn because she has her reasons and is afraid that if he finds out that she is a mermaid, he will leave her at the same time. The perpetrator knew Kim's whereabouts and called Murat's father, telling her that he was the one who gave her the number in a text message. Her son comes home and realizes that she wants to hurt him, so he pretends to give his mother the phone and drops it in the water to eliminate her. She doesn't know how to reach the perpetrator or Kim. Here is Kim, who wants to go to bed, but Shim keeps jumping on him and he can't fall asleep because of her. She asks him if she can sleep next to him, but he tells her that if she doesn't come out of her room again, she'll be gone for the day. What a shame. She gets angry and goes to bed, not wanting to sleep that night because she knows this is her last chance and she has to tell him the truth. In the morning, Shim's girlfriend Kim comes over to their house, and the girl doesn't like Shim at all, and Shim doesn't even want her in the house. The first time she comes in, she harasses Shim with words and wants to throw her out. So, she bites her arm. When Kim goes home, he can't believe she did that. He yells at her and tells her that it's her last day at home. He took his girlfriend and they went for a walk. When he went home, she asked him not to let her out of the house, and he knew how to get her out in 1 minute. He told her that he was going to make very tasty food, and if she wanted to eat, she would come down. Of course, she came down, because food is very important. After she ate, he gave her a bus card and a phone. He told her that she was going to leave now, but not to call him until she wanted to tell him the truth. She told him that she was going to walk, but he promised her that the first time it snowed, he would meet her there. She pointed to a high tower, but she wanted to confess to him that she loved him. She wanted to tell him the way she saw it on the show, and that when the snow comes down and someone confesses their love to someone else, will their love last forever? Please like and subscribe before we continue watching. He promises to get rid of her and leaves. Kim originally had a tracking device on her phone to know where she went, who she talked to, and who she really was. When his friends come back and don't find him, they are very angry with him, saying how could he leave her out in the cold like that, and that he has no mercy because she had nowhere to go. On the other hand, Shim is on the street and meets Shahada holding a piece of paper. She asked her what she was doing, and she said, "If you want to earn money, hand out all these papers," and on the last day, they gave her money. She agrees and starts handing out papers, and Kim is watching her on the phone, not knowing why she's standing there. And she's so tall. He came down when he saw her handing out the cards, reported her to the officer who was standing there, and then he got some guys to take all the cards away from her so she wouldn't have to stand there. He paid them a lot of money, and when he found her cold and hungry, he sent a woman with food and other things to dress her and warm her up. The woman then told him that he looked as if he loved her. Of course, he denied it. A few minutes later, a young man asked for her number. He quickly called her and told her that he forgot to tell her that if anyone asked for her number, she would refuse. While she was talking to him, she happened to see him in front of her and ran up to him and told him that she was working now, that she had a lot of money and would give it to him because she knew he liked money. He left her and went away. It snowed that night, and she was happy to see him, as they had agreed. She was able to confess her love to him at the tower, ran to the tower where they were supposed to meet, and he got dressed to go to her, happy that he would finally learn the truth from her. He actually liked her, and Shim went to the tower to meet him. Unfortunately, an accident happened, and the man who hit her with the car was the son of his father's daughter. At the same time, Kim goes to the tower to meet her, but she won't go. We go back to the old time when the governor took the mermaid and hid her in an old house and sent his friend to take her to another place, because unfortunately, they knew the place. When he takes her to the second place, he tells her to wait there while he goes to get the governor and come back for her. While he is on his way to the governor, his men meet the village chief, take him away, and throw him off the mountain. On the other hand, the governor goes to the house where the nymph is staying and doesn't find her there. He searches everywhere and still can't find her. We go back to the present when Kim calls for Shim, and when she doesn't show up, he tries to find her via GPS. But her phone was on the ground, and all the paper she was handing out was on the ground, so he realized she had an accident. He started asking people about her and realized that she had been in an accident. He quickly went to all the hospitals to check on the girl and found her after suffering. He found her in a critical condition and on the verge of death. At that moment, he realized that unfortunately, he was the one who would lose. He began to beg the doctor to save her by any means. He held her hand. She opened her eyes and told him that she had a strange dream in which he saved her from death. Actually, the dream was when the governor saved the nymph years ago, but it's just a memory that comes back to her. He called his friends and told them to make her a fake ID because he was afraid for her. They told him they didn't want to waste their time on something so trivial. But they didn't know that it was Shim's, and when they found out that Shim had done it, they were shocked and rushed to the hospital. At the same time, she is already awake and happy that Kim is worried about her. She asks him if he's really worried about her, and he tells her that it's not about her, it's about all of them, and that she has no parents. His friends saw him yelling at her and beat him up and told him not to do that. They were obviously worried about her and loved her very much. He came out of the hospital and saw his father's son and realized that he had hit her with his car. He says that he hit her and that he didn't mean to and walks away. Shim, on the other hand, is still in the hospital and doesn't like the hospital environment at all, and her leg is broken, but she doesn't feel like she needs it anymore. She asks the doctor if she will have to stay in the hospital for a long time, and he tells her that it will only be for a short time, until she feels better. She tells them that she will marry everyone here until it is her turn to marry Kim. They all cringe at what she's saying. The doctor told them to give Shim a brain scan to see if anything had affected her. He didn't even know that she was normal. When she asked the nurse, she was told that she had to fast for the operation. She was devastated and couldn't believe she wouldn't be able to eat. She called Kim and told him that everyone was eating except her. He laughed at her because he knew her weakness was eating. He told her to close the door and listen to the doctor's words, and that she should fast. But before he hung up, he called the hospital and yelled at them. He told them that she didn't need an operation, and even if she did, they should have told him she was fasting so she could eat properly first. He was very nervous for her, and after that he went to the hospital and made sure she was fed. Shem called him while she was eating and told him that he had brought her a plate of food. He growled at her and told her that he had told her not to call him again. After she hung up, he couldn't believe how he could be so vulnerable to her and fell completely in love with her. As the days went by, Shim began to feel better and considered the hospital her home and the people around her family. One day, she went downstairs for a walk and found the hospital director beating one of the security guards severely. The reason for the beating was that he refused to walk alone. All she said was that she wanted to know how her daughter died in the hospital. Shim didn't like the situation and got angry. Even though her leg was broken, she ran and attacked the manager and hit him, and he flew away. All the people there were shocked. They grabbed her and took her in for questioning. When he and his friends saw the video of her beating up the hospital director, he laughed and called her an idiot. Meanwhile, he decided to take revenge on the hospital director, entered his office as the son of the hospital owner, acted as his son, and even entered his office, where they realized that the director had taken a bribe, after which they threatened him to fulfill all their demands. The first thing is to apologize to the security guard. The second thing is to tell the woman the truth about her daughter's death and that the hospital is the only reason for her death, and to pay her financial compensation. The third thing is to file the complaint he filed against her. After that, he went to see her and she was happy. He took her with him to give her a surprise. He showed her the snow and the world. Because the first time they met, it was supposed to snow, and unfortunately, she had an accident. But she doesn't know that it's not real snow. On the other hand, Kim's father, whose name is Nam, realized that Kim's mother was spying on her husband through a tracking device he put in the car. Unfortunately, he didn't tell anyone, and the perpetrator knew and hit him with the car before he could tell anyone. Kim went with Shim to show her the snow. When she arrived and saw it, she was completely fascinated by the snow and was very happy. They went snowboarding. At the end of the day, Kim wanted her to tell him, "I love you," so he could compare her voice to the one he hears all the time. Because every time he falls asleep, he dreams of someone telling him, "I love you." But Kim is already attracted to him. In ancient times, when the village chief's men were able to reach the nymph in the cave she was in, the governor was able to reach his friend, who was between life and death. He quickly took him to the doctor, and the whole town went crazy over the mermaid. He also threatened that if she didn't tell him where she was, he would torture her until she confessed. He went to the governor's camp and found the mermaid dying with pearls on her forehead from her tears. He took her with him to save her, but he knew it was too late. He took her shawl and left. He told her that although he couldn't remember his memories of her, he wished they could be reborn in another world. When the boy asked the girl to say, "I love you," the girl went on to talk about a nice person she knew, and of course, she meant him, but he didn't know. And that was before her memories came back. Kim was very jealous of the person she was talking about, that he was nice, and that she liked him. He stayed up all night thinking and couldn't sleep. So he woke up and asked her if she had met him, and she told him that she had. When she told him that he looked like a gentleman, he told her, No, he must like girls. They are like that. They are sweet guys." He started cursing a lot, and she laughed because he was cursing himself. Then he falls asleep and has nightmares, and doesn't know what he's dreaming about. On the other hand, the police may have realized that the crimes in the country are being committed by a certain criminal and were able to find out his personality and name. The next morning, Shim was hungry and went out to throw herself into the sea. Just before she threw herself in to eat fish, a young man was there and rushed to save her. He didn't know that she was a mermaid. After that, they looked into each other's eyes and started talking telepathically and knew each other all the time. After he fell in love with a girl and told her not to be like him because people change and their feelings change, his girlfriend left him when she found out who he really was. She married someone else and is living happily ever after. He asks her to leave, but she tells him she has no money to leave. He tells her that her tears turn into pearls, which are very expensive. He told her that if her boyfriend doesn't confess his love to her within 2 months, she will die. He told her that he himself was dying because his lover didn't love him anymore. To save her, he told her that he would help her and make her boyfriend jealous. He told her to make a plan. The first thing he asked her to do was to sit down and give a lot so that she would have pearls to sell and clothes to buy. He bought her and made her a second person. When they arrived at the house to take her home, Kim saw them together and was so jealous that he locked the door in his face. The next day, she was wearing a much nicer outfit than the day before. He seemed jealous and told her not to wear shorts again and refused to let her leave the house without his permission. He prefers to run away and talk to his friends about his brutal treatment of her. The next day, she goes to the pool to become a mermaid again. He walks around until he finds her in the pool. He asks her, "What are you doing in there?" She tells him to close his eyes so he can't see her in the water. She tells him to get out. After she gets out, he yells at her. Then he tells her to watch herself. Suppose one of his friends saw her, and he keeps yelling at her because he's jealous of her. He goes to his friends and tells them that if they come to the house later, they should ring the bell. He goes and meets his best friend, who is an archaeologist. She tells him about an ancient ruler who drew a picture of a mermaid with a man wearing pants. It's strange because there were no pants in those days, and the person looks like Kim today. When he sees the drawing, he imagines that he has seen it before in a dream. He decides to go see a psychiatrist. When he went and told him everything that had happened, he was hypnotized. When he fell asleep, he dreamed about the governor and saw something in front of him, and he couldn't tell the difference between reality and dream. When he woke up, he told the doctor that he had seen it in a dream and that it must have been a superstition. Then he went home and saw it on his face and thought it was the same thing he had seen in his dream. She came out of the house and changed her mind. They asked her where she was going, and she told them that she was going to sell pearls. She told them that she had worked hard to collect these pearls. She was sweating. One of them, the big crook, took a pearl from her without her knowing. On the other hand, she only had 2 months to live, and if she didn't confess her love to Kim, she would die. She went to his room and begged him to tell her if he loved her or not, and he told her no. She begged him to think about it, but he was adamant about his decision. She told him that if he ever decided that he loved her, he should tell her. She was very upset that she had to leave him and walk away. She cursed him and went to bed. The next morning, she saw him outside and smiled. She didn't know that he was going to the library, so she tried to trick him into going with her to get closer to him. Or maybe he would like her. But he wouldn't agree. After asking him repeatedly, she was able to convince him. When he went to the bookstore to read the story of the ruler, he realized that he was just like him in every way and that he died at the age of 27. He got scared and realized that he would die in 20 days. At the same time, she was reading a book about mermaids. After they finish and leave, he gets a letter and is forced to leave Shim and go away. She decides to go to her boyfriend, but unfortunately she finds out that his heart stopped and he died. She also finds him giving his girlfriend a pearl ring. His girlfriend is still crying and regrets leaving him. When she sits down, he tells her all about how he loved her and gave her this ring to prove his undying love for her. The situation is traumatic for her because this is what will happen to her if he doesn't confess his love for her. He goes to meet Nam, his father's secretary, but doesn't meet him and instead meets the outlaw who eliminated his neighbor. He asks, "Where is Nam?" But Nam answers and beats him up. He wanted to eliminate him, but Kim wanted to hypnotize him and had a vision that he was a person from the past who was dreaming about him. But the criminal wanted to eliminate him, all because of his father's wife, who didn't want him to inherit anything since he was the only legitimate son. After the criminal escapes, Kim goes to Shim to tell him that she's tired. When she sees him injured for the first time, she is worried about him. At the same time, he is also worried about her because she tells him that she is tired. She tells him that she wants to tell him a secret, and that if he finds out, he will never see her again and will stay away from her forever. She decides to tell him the secret and goes back to the ocean. But he is shocked and tells her that he wants to tell her that he is starting to love her and tells her not to stay away from him. He wanted to hold her hand so they could leave. But unfortunately, he felt severe pain and lost consciousness because he was so injured. He dreamed that he was the ruler, all because of the criminal who tried to do it to him. His father's wife was the one who told the outlaw to eliminate him and get rid of him so that she could inherit everything. When he loses consciousness, he has a flashback to a man who looks exactly like him and is the ruler of the time. He is told to protect his beloved, the mermaid. Afterwards, Kim woke up and told her that he was fine. She hugged him and showed that she was worried about him. He told her to never give in to anything she wants. Then he goes home, and Kim's friends ask him if he knows who the perpetrator is, and he tells them no. Suddenly, he sees him on TV and recognizes him and tells them it's him. Shim tells them that he tried to get close to her several times, but she didn't know he was an outlaw. Kim feels that she is in danger and that he must protect her. At the same time, his stepson realizes that his mother is plotting to eliminate Kim. He goes after her, especially after the incident with Nam's secretary. At the same time, Kim refuses to let Shim go out alone and is afraid for her. However, on the second day, Shim goes to the beggar, and the girl sits down with her and asks her what she can do to make him like her, and she tells her what she can do to make him like her. By chance, Kim was driving and saw Shim sitting with the beggar, so he picked her up and asked her why she was sitting with her, and she told him that she was her friend. He takes her into the car and tells her that he is afraid of the criminal and that she should take care of herself. After that, he takes her and goes to see the driver at the hospital because he was the closest person to him after his mother left him. There he meets his father by chance, and his father apologizes to him, telling him that he misses him very much and that he never preferred his mother's son to him, and that Kim was the one who was wrong. But Kim can't forget his father's beau, so he apologizes, leaves him, walks away, picks her up, and they go home. He tells her that if she wants to leave, she can, and that nothing will make a difference to him. He leaves her and goes to his room, tired and thinking about when he lived with his father and was miserable, but no one felt for him. Suddenly, he finds Shim giving him compresses and telling him that she won't stay away from him no matter what, even if he asks her not to, because he knows she won't give up on him, and telling him that no matter what he does to me, I will be there for him and love him. He tells her about his father's cruelty to him in the past and how much he suffered as a child. He cries, and she hugs him and tells him that she is by his side and will never leave him. The next day, Kim wakes up and brings her all the food she likes, while she is out of her room, disciplined and well-groomed, and his friends flirt with her. At night, he and his friend decide to steal someone new and tell her that she is going to dramatize with them, and she does exactly as they say. Kim pretends to be a very wealthy person, and Shim is his fiancé, and she is already thrilled and agrees. He asks her to do 3 very important things. First, she must never talk in front of anyone, never laugh, and never eat. She tells him that the whole eating thing is really hard, so he tells her to just subscribe to the channel instead of eating and let her eat normally. The next day, they go to the place where the antiquities are, and he sees a picture of the governor with a sign that says, "Protect your girlfriend and don't make my mistake." He doesn't know if this is a dream or reality, because the dream has become reality and he doesn't understand anything. When the emperor realizes that he is going to die, the first thing he does is to eliminate Yang to rid the people of his evil. He also decided to leave a mark so that Kim would know that what he saw was real and not a dream. He hired a painter to draw him and buried the drawing under his house. On the other hand, the criminal dreams just like them and has the same dreams as them, only this time with the evil character of Yang. He once dreamed that he was sentenced to death for betraying the governor. After that, Kim's dreams never left him. One day, he dreamed about the governor, so he went out for a drink and met his friend sitting outside. He told him that he had to know the truth about Shim and that there was something strange about her. When her leg was broken, she didn't even last a day and quickly disappeared. The next day, Kim's stepmother makes food for his father and puts drugs in his food to get rid of him, and his health deteriorates, and that's what happens. On the other hand, she goes out for a walk, finds the little girl with her, picks her up, and goes home. The girl has the ability to hear Shim without speaking, and even Kim notices that she looks like her. The next day, Kim and his friends go to steal from other people, but they don't realize that these people are actually the family of their friend who always comes to the house and works in antiques. Among the people they wanted to steal was his mother. Every time he eats with them, he thinks of all his memories of his mother, not knowing that she is only a few feet away from him. They had to leave the house very quickly when they realized that the house was actually Kim's friend's house. When they arrived at her house, Shim realized that they were imposters and that he had tricked her. She looked at him and couldn't believe that her friend Kim was an imposter. Then she stood in front of them without speaking. Suddenly, he also started to read her mind and knew what she was thinking and realized that she was a mermaid. He was shocked by the truth she was hiding from him. She came out of her room and looked at her tears and heartache. At the same time, he looked at his phone and started thinking about the memories between them. And then he called her. But the shock was that he couldn't find her, and he realized that she was out of his life and back in her own world. He ran down the street to find her, but she was nowhere to be found and existed only in his memories. He began to think about everything that had happened to him and realized that the nymph had met the governor, they had both died, and they had both been reborn years later. He knew that he had to complete the destiny of the governor who told him never to let her go. He stood in the street, not knowing what to do now that his beloved had returned to her world. On the other hand, the criminal may have dreamed of the day of his execution. The dream was so vivid that he recognized the faces of the governor and the nymph. Of course, he saw the similarities between all of them. At the same time, he realized that his enemies were Shim and Kim, and that he had to eliminate them. When Kim leaves, he finds that the mermaid has taken all the clothes he bought for her and has returned them, because she realizes that the money he got for them was a scam. His father's son saw her and offered to give her a ride, but she refused and asked him why she didn't want to go home. She told him that on TV, when someone runs away from home, they go to a sauna, and asked him to drive her to that place. She spent the night in the sauna. Kim, on the other hand, was looking for her and didn't know where she was. He went to the beggar and was afraid he wouldn't find her there, but he didn't. He went to all the places she went, but it was no use. By chance, her phone was unlocked when the girl stole it from her purse, and when he got there and found out where they were, he entered her house and couldn't believe he had finally met her after all this trouble. He pulled her close and held her in his arms, still in shock that he knew where she was. He asked her how she got here, and she told him that his brother had driven her here. He tried to talk to her, but she refused to go home with him, and he told her to stay here and not go anywhere else. Meanwhile, the police found out that the criminal was in a relationship with a woman who had been married twice before, and both times, her husband died the same way after losing his eyesight. On the other hand, the wife of Kim's father, who was the criminal's girlfriend at that time, did the same thing she did with her other husbands, and gave Kim's father drugs, and the drugs started to affect him, and she laughed at him all the time to make him die more slowly. When Kim came home and thought about his conversation with her, and how she talked about the person she was involved with, and put all the events together, he realized that she was talking about him, and that he was the idiot who was cursing himself. But of course he couldn't believe that he had said all those things, and that he was using her without her knowing it. He thought a lot and couldn't sleep, so he decided to go to the place where she was staying. He went there while she was asleep, slept next to her, and kept his mind off her and felt comfortable reading her mind. But, of course, even that caused him trouble, because he couldn't fall asleep because of her, and also when he realized that if she touched the water, her tail would come back. He was always trying to keep them away from water, which of course made him act without thinking, and he would get angry at anyone who spilled water on the floor, as well as at children, so that no one would ever spill water. And because he was so afraid, he harassed all the women in the place. One of them told her how lucky she was to have such a friend. She tells her that she's here in the sauna, and her husband knows and won't come to reconcile with her. She says if you want him, take him and leave, because she's sick of him. This whole mind-reading thing has become very easy for Kim. He makes all her dreams come true without her even knowing or asking. One night she asked him to stop bothering her, and that was her only condition for going home. On the other hand, the police found out where the criminal was, in the same place they were, and while they were looking for him, they accidentally saw Kim and arrested him, and he had to go with them. Unfortunately, he was worried about her, because she was standing there waiting for him. He told the police that they had no case against him, and that he was not the criminal they were looking for, and asked them to find the real criminal, the one who could hurt his girlfriend. He asked them to call her, and when he called her on the phone, he told her that she needed to go home. She told him that there was a taxi in front of her, so she got in and went with it. But the surprise was that the driver was the criminal, and the criminal knew from his dreams that Shim was a mermaid, and the important thing for him now was that her tears would bring him pearls, and he could get rich. He kidnapped her and told her that he knew she was a mermaid from the dreams that would always come to him. Before he came to her side, she told him that his dreams must have taught him that a mermaid could take away all his memories and destroy his life, and she continued to threaten and frighten him. The criminal actually thought about his dreams, confirmed her words, and was afraid of her. At the same time, Kim led the police to the scene and located them via GPS. When he arrived, the criminal left her and ran away. When Kim saw her, he took her in his arms and apologized for being late. He then took her home with the police officer. When Kim's friends saw the police, they were afraid they would be caught. Kim took her home and put her to bed and put his hand on her hair, and she felt his love for her for the first time, and that he was starting to care for her and love her. Shim told him to keep him by her side. He told her that they were leaving the house and moving out, and that she would help him move the furniture out of the house and live with him. He then left her to go to sleep, but he listened to her thoughts all night, happy that she was finally starting to love me. Kim laughs at her as she says, "I'm sure he wants me to help him because she's strong and he's going to love her." All night long, Kim was amused by her thoughts, asking herself, does he love her or not? But it's gone on too long and he can't sleep, so he tells her to stop thinking about it and go to sleep. He told her to go to sleep, and that was enough. When he went to sleep, she woke up again and started thinking a lot. The next morning, they woke up, exhausted from lack of sleep, but she was still thinking, and he didn't hear anything. But sometimes he laughed, sometimes he got angry with her, and once he heard her say that her face gets red when she is next to him. But he doesn't like it. If his face doesn't get red, he doesn't love me. And the thoughts came back. She thought that if she came close to him and he kissed her, his face would turn red and he would love her. At that moment, he hears her thoughts again, saying that she doesn't know what to think, and he is already tired and can't stand it anymore, so he leaves her alone. At night, the whole gang is out and his best friend is out with his girlfriend, and she is jealous of him, and her jealousy is obvious to him. He laughed when he heard her say that the nuts tasted very sweet. Then his friend got up and went into the living room. Shem goes after her and tells her that he loves her and wants to marry her. She told her not to believe him and that he would never marry her. When he saw her upset and thinking about it, he begged her to go to sleep without thinking. Of course, he was asking the impossible because she would be upset. He told her to sleep in his bed, and he slept in hers. The next morning, she asked Kim's friend for help to teach her how to search. But when Kim saw her talking to him, he got very jealous and told her not to talk in his ear anymore. When he started to read her mind, she was so confused by his method that he got angry and said in a loud voice that he had to tell her the words so that she would understand. But they were surprised by his reaction because no one was talking. But by reading her mind, he was able to read her mind. On the other hand, his father's health began to deteriorate because of the medication. When he went to the doctor, he said, "You can lose your eyesight at any time." When he was released from the hospital, his ex-wife, Kim's mother, recognized him. But he couldn't see her very well. As he walked away without speaking to her, she thought about how his wife had laughed at him and betrayed him one day. When she took her home and trusted her with her life, she kidnapped her husband. At the same time, Kim's brother had a clear conscience and called Kim and told him that his father was in danger and that he had to protect him. He told him that it was his duty as his real son. He told him that he had to protect his mother because he was her only son and because he knew what his mother was doing, and he was locked up with him. Kim thought about her when he went to bed, only to find her sleeping in his bed, thinking about whether he loved her or not. There are so many thoughts in her head and she can't say a word, but he could hear every word. He felt sorry for her and decided to tell her the truth, but at the last moment, he couldn't. When she was about to leave her room, he stopped her and told her to calm down, and that every beautiful thing she had in her mind would come true. He approached her and confessed that he loved her, which was his first confession, of love because he wanted to calm her down and let her know his true feelings for her. Shem finally realized that he loved her. She was very happy, and all she could think of was the same sentence in which he told her that he was finally in love with her. He listened to her thoughts and was very pleased with her ideas that helped her as well as the way she expressed her love for him. From then on, her life turned into happiness. The next day, she was out on the street helping people who needed help. While helping people, she bumped into Kim's mother and saw someone trying to rob her. She was able to save her and give her back what she needed. On the other hand, Kim's boyfriend at the time realized that the cook working for them was Kim's mother. Of course, she decides to hide the whole thing because she already treats her like a monster, and she loves her son, let alone if he finds out that she treats a mother like that. On the other hand, Kim's mother's plans are going as she wants, and every day she gives him medicine to make him sicker. But she is not satisfied with that. She also wants to hasten his death after she finds out that he is making a will for his son Kim. She took advantage of the fact that he couldn't see very well and changed the will to her son, signed while he was asleep, and was able to defraud him, and all the property was now hers. As for Kim, he wanted to know the end of the governor's story with the nymph, so he went to the doctor and asked him to hypnotize him. When he fell asleep, he realized that the governor had died saving the nymph. When she saw that he was dead, she approached him, took the dagger he died with, and eliminated herself with it. That's how Kim knew she was dead. When Kim first wakes up, he is very upset and thinks that he is the cause of his lover's death. Of course, I'm sure that he and Shim will meet the same end as the governor. He went to meet her, and when he saw her hugging her, he was afraid of losing her. He decided to make her happy and give her the love that she wanted. He took her with him and they went out and played a lot, and he took her to the movies, and they were very happy. Meanwhile, the criminal went to the doctor and wanted to know the end of his old story. When the doctor hypnotized the criminal, he realized that he was not the one who eliminated the governor and the nymph. But he doesn't want to say out loud who eliminated them. On the other hand, Kim's father's son knew what his mother was doing and that she was trying to eliminate her husband. But it didn't make any difference to him because he made sure that he only had Kim in his life. His appearance also changed, and he became as evil as his mother. One day, his mother dropped him down the stairs, and he didn't tell the truth. He called an ambulance, and then they decided that their father would continue his treatment at home and hid the news from everyone, even from Kim himself, so that they could be alone with him and eliminate him at their leisure. On the other hand, Kim is standing with Shin when she is very upset, and he hears her thoughts and realizes that she will die if something happens to him. Kim is forced to confess to her that he knows everything he knows and that he knows her history. He was able to read her mind and even told her about the governor and the mermaid and what happened between them. She was shocked that he knew the truth and had kept it from her for so long. He told her that the ruler and the nymph lived happily together for the rest of their lives and that he didn't want to tell her the truth. He had to lie to her so she wouldn't be as confused and upset as he was. On the other hand, Kim's brother went to the hospital to eliminate Nam to protect his mother. At the same time, the criminal comes in and tells him that he won't do anything until he knows the outcome first. He follows him at the last moment and wonders why he's afraid of him and why he's always at his mother's side. Then the doctors arrive and save Nam. On the other hand, Shim is very happy and decides to make a birthday for herself because she doesn't know when her birthday is. She chooses this day as her birthday because she doesn't know when her real birthday is. She decided to invite all the people she loves, her friends, the beggar and the child, and she also decided to invite her new friend who is Kim's mother. Shim went to take Kim's mother to her birthday party, and on the way home, Shim ran into Kim by chance, and when his mother heard his name, she immediately knew that he was her son and looked at him, not believing that he was right in front of her. She ran to him, hugged him, told him she was sorry for leaving him, and left. Kim was very happy to finally meet his mother. After that, they went home and had a nice birthday party, making everyone happy for the reunion and Shim's birthday. On the other hand, Kim's brother knew that the criminal was his real father, and of course he found out the truth about his mother, and that she caused the death of all her men. But even though he knew the truth about her, he continued to protect her. He confronted her, and she told him that she did all of this so that he wouldn't have to go through the poverty and loneliness that she experienced. At the same time, Kim began to suspect that his father had disappeared. He told his friends to help him enter the house and see if he was hiding or not. When he entered the house and saw his father, he started talking to him and told him that his wife was evil. He also told him her real name and that she does this to everyone she marries. But his father didn't believe him. He told him that it was all his fault that his mother left him when he was 17 years old. Kim told his father and insisted that he take him home to protect him, but his father refused to go with him. On the other hand, the perpetrator found Shim standing in front of him in the garage. She went to him and bravely stood in front of him with a hammer and hit him in the face with a water pipe. He ran after her, and she grabbed his hand and pulled out all his memories and dreams, but the sound of the people he eliminated told him it was his destiny to hear and feel guilt for the rest of his life. As she pulled out his memories, she realized the end of the governor and the nymph that Kim had hidden from her, that he had lied to her when he told her that they would live happily ever after, and that the end was sad. At the same time, the criminal has already forgotten everything, including his son and his mother. And when he goes to meet his wife, she goes crazy because he was the one who depended on him the most. And when he is no longer useful, she takes him to her house to hide him away from people, because he doesn't know anything anymore. While she, of course, continues her plan by giving her husband medicine, and he doesn't forget his son's words and starts to doubt her. When she realized the danger and that he was beginning to find out the truth, she said she had to hurry and get rid of him sooner. At that moment, she decided to get rid of him completely and gave him a poison that no one would ever find out about. She gave him the poison through water and he drank it because he couldn't see it. When he realized that he was dying, he called his son and apologized to him, telling him that he was sorry and that he had let his mother die. Kim knew that his father was in danger, so he went home and the ambulance brought him to the house. Unfortunately, after he died, he collapsed and could not believe that his father had died without feeling guilty for leaving him alone all this time. Kim was devastated to see his brother treating him like his own son. He beat him up because he was sure that his father's death was unnatural. On the other hand, his friends found out what had happened, and when they arrived at the hospital, Shim was very sad for Kim. He stood in front of her and begged her to erase all memories of his father, but she refused. She told him that even though the memories are painful, you can't forget them. Even if you forget his love, you will never be able to erase it from your memories. After that, his father's wife came to the hospital. She was acting out and self-medicating, sweating and screaming, and everyone around her was sure she was crazy. At the same time, her son wanted to protect her from people after he realized that she had eliminated him. To protect his mother, he had no one to turn to but Kim's owner, who is a big con man. He knows all about his past, and if he doesn't like it, he will put him in jail. Kim's friend didn't hesitate to help him. He told him that he wouldn't threaten him, but he could get more money, so he asked him to get rid of Kim. Kim, on the other hand, wants to do an autopsy to make sure his father was poisoned. But his wife and son refused and accused him of being greedy for more money. The police went to the house and searched it, but nothing was found against the son or his mother. Meanwhile, Shem went to Kim and decided to help him. She stood in front of his father's wife, held her hand and went into her memories, and realized that she was the one who eliminated her husband and was the reason she was arrested. Since there was nothing against her, the police had to release her 2 days later. On the other hand, there was an agreement between his father's wife and Kim's owner that he would bring Kim to her and she would eliminate him herself. He went and attacked his friend before getting into the car. He hit him in the head and took him to her so that he would not be safe. There, he gave him a poison injection to eliminate him. The injection would affect him and stop his heart within half an hour. His father's wife asked them to leave them together so he could show her what was going on. He asked her, "How could you do this to his father?" She confessed to him that she had eliminated his father and all the men she had married before him. Surprisingly, the police showed up and said it was all an act by her friends to prove her guilt. He didn't want to betray Kim, and he had agreed with him in the first place. At that moment, his brother grabbed the gun from the policeman next to him and shot Kim. But Shim came over and saved him, and she took the bullet in her back instead of Kim. While hugging him, the hero says that time is repeating itself again, and he can't believe it. He says, "This is the end of the story again, and it's almost the end of the story of the governor and the mermaid." A few minutes later, the ambulance came and took Shim away. On the other hand, the police arrested his father's wife. At the same time, her son went to take the poison she gave to her husband and sadly eliminated himself instead of suffering. After the police took her away, they interrogated her, but she insisted that she was innocent. Then they heard that her son had died, so she ran to him and told him that he had done this to her. He told her that she was the cause of everything that had happened to him, and that her biggest mistake was being his mother. As for Shim, the doctors took her to the operating room. All the doctors were amazed at her stamina and the fact that any normal person would have died. They asked her what she ate and what made her so strong. She came and laughed and told the doctors that she doesn't eat anything in particular. She eats a lot at the same time. Shim wakes up from his coma. At the same time, the criminal watches all the news but doesn't understand anything. When he heard the news of his son's death, he wasn't surprised because he couldn't think of anyone but the doctor. He had to go to him and practice hypnosis. While he was asleep, he dreamed of the same old time when he was a priest and knew that he would live in torment. He also saw the person who eliminated him. When he woke up, he asked the doctor if he knew everything that was happening and that he was dreaming like them. He told him that, of course, he knew everything that was happening to him and attacked him and tried to eliminate him. But at that moment, Kim went to the doctor and saw him and was able to save him from the criminal's hands at the last moment. The police arrived just in time before the criminal eliminated Kim. The criminal realizes that Kim's friend was the one who eliminated him during the governor's time. Kim's friend is surprised. Why is he looking at him like that? Kim went to the hospital, was discharged, and her file was quickly taken before anyone knew the truth about her because she got scared easily, and then she went home and was exhausted all the time. He knew that she would die soon if she didn't go back to the ocean, but he decided to sacrifice his love for her and let her go back to the ocean again, so that she would be scared and regain her strength and return to him again. But she was so afraid of him and his memories with her that she had to kiss him and pull out all his memories, and decided that this time she didn't want her to live in the mother without anyone else. But she couldn't erase her memories of her little friend, and knew that her mother would be a mermaid. It's been 3 years since that moment, and he's living a wonderful life with his mother. He became a great prosecutor. His friends have respectable careers. On the other hand, Shim is in pain and mourning his loss. She had a lot of pearls and was ready to return after her health improved. She reappeared on the ground and sold all her pearls. She knew that she had to go back for Kim's sake. She got up and went to Kim's house, and when she arrived, a friend opened the door. He didn't recognize her and wouldn't let her in, but Kim's mother, who didn't know her, let her in. Kim's friend called him and told him that there was a beautiful girl waiting for him. A few minutes later, Kim's friend came to ask him for a passport. Shim understood that she was coming to marry Kim, but that wasn't the truth. He told her that Kim was in love with someone else, so she better stay away from him, and told her that she was going to marry Kim's friend, not Kim. After a while, Kim comes home and Shim's eyes are full of tears when she sees him. He asks her who she is, why she's here, and what she wants since he's not supposed to know her. But she thought that his life was better than hers, and he didn't know her anymore. So he looked into her eyes and told her that he was leaving because he had an appointment and wasn't free. So he left her and walked away. She went after him, but she couldn't follow him, so she kept running into him on the street until it snowed. So she stayed on the street waiting for him to tell him that she was coming back to the ocean because he didn't remember her, and she was upset. After a while, he came and gave her an umbrella and held out his hand. She grabbed his hand and asked him why she was going to leave him again. He told her that he had recorded all her memories and that he would never forget her. He had wanted her for 3 years. He had been waiting for the day she would return. He told her that all this time he thought of nothing but holding her. He told her that he loved her very much. He took her back to the room where she lived. She found that everything was just the way it was, and she was very happy. She promised him that she wouldn't leave. Sometime later, they got married and lived happily ever after. And it looks like Shim will get Bebe soon. And this is the end of the series. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and review it.